We are starting over here, right? So, hey, YouTube. And we're waiting for just a few more viewers to join, right? Anybody who wanted to be here today? Well, I hope you're making it today just because that is the second time I'm on here with this current topic. The topic is I'm just going to put a comment in here at the top of the thread saying what it's a long one today. What happens inside the brain? I'm typing as I'm speaking. It's not that I speak like that. Inside the brain of a bilingual person. There we go. So that is hi. Hello everybody. Pin in the comment pinned. All right, so anybody who's going to be joining us here today, well, they just gonna look at the chat and it's like, okay, that's what it is. That is the topic here. What happens inside the brain of a bilingual person? Or we could say multilingual. It depends on the context here, of course. So, well, a lot of things happen there. I have been on here with the same speech, and I rambled more about the journey of a cognitive neuroscientist who has a multilingual kiddo. And that was more of a story time the first time around. And today it's going to be more of what actually happens in the brain, how to improve English, people are asking. Well, you are joining this particular stream, flexing your listening abilities, and that's amazing. Well, I guess as much content as you can put in, that will be great. Thanks for the question. I don't know. I never learned English like as a language in the classroom, so it's my first. So as for learning specifically, it's hard work or it's environment. There's two ways to go here. Well, so yeah, as you can guess, this topic is super duper dear to my heart, and I major in bi and trilingual brain studies. Well, that is quite an infant little branch of neuroscience that kind of has been developing for the past few years. Well, the big talks on bilingualism started like, let's say, 20 years ago, because that's when the style of hair making is so confident. Okay, fine. Yeah, I changed my hair if somebody's seen me before, so that's a change. Right, there was a big hype around bilingualism 20 years ago because it was yet another way um, to educate, because that was the time when people were debating a lot of different educational theories and ways to educate little humans, right? And immersion, two-way immersion programs started right there and then. And well, now what do you guys think? Like, is it popular? Does your city or your town or wherever you are joining from have bilingual schools or like little bilingual preschools or anything like that? Maybe just like little classes, short programs. While you're thinking and answering, I would say I see a lot. And as I travel a lot, there's quite a lot of that even in the English speaking world, right? US, the most monolingual population. It's a joke, of course, because with the immigration, there's all types of languages. But the nation itself, as or the native speakers of English, it is kind of, you know, doesn't make too much sense to learn another one just for the purpose of your brain working faster. There isn't any like pressing demand to learn a foreign language. Well, rather than just for fun. So yeah, English people don't learn other languages a whole lot. That probably is a stereotype, but that stereotype proves to be true. I'm looking away because we're streaming to different platforms here, so you won't be like upset that I'm looking away. Most of our viewers still join on Instagram, and that's like the leading platform for this. Well, yeah, any two-way immersion programs, bilingual schools, bilingual programs in your town? Uh, Anything you heard about this type of education? Again, as you're answering, any kind of input would be amazing because today I planned this more of a conversation rather than just blibber blabber about neuroscience. That was what happened last time. I'm going to talk about brains. I'm not going to be like too heavy on science because, well, I don't want to be boring, right? I speak on other platforms too, popularizing science. And yeah, that's what I believe in. Science should be approachable and not off putting. Well, it's got to be, friendly. We're going to touch upon a few studies here today, but still. All right. Your opinion on bilingualism. Should we train children ourselves to be bi and trilingual? Anything you can share here, you're welcome to share. So, yeah, I'll try to incorporate some research clearly. Um, and well, these days, education started to look at what it can borrow from neuroscience. And it honestly just makes me so excited because, well, hey, finally, educators and the cognitive sciences and life sciences have come together because we are educating humans here, aren't we? Well, well, do you think it's a good idea, like while you're answering about bilingual anything? Yeah, you might also think about this one. Is it a good idea to borrow findings from other sciences and incorporate them into education? I have a question here. English is at a high level. I am a native speaker, yes. My background is I am a German national, but I've been educated and lived in the US. So you get what you get, and I'm a trilingual third culture child and raising a third culture child myself, which is why what brings me here to talk about this topic, right? Because this brain is a multilingual brain and I just really would like to share my findings about it. All right, thanks for questions, of course. Yeah, I do not see any input from you guys so far, but either way, you're probably thinking, hey, what do I know about two-way immersion programs? Do I know a child like whose parents put them into that bilingual school? So did they pick up an accent there? Did they like can they freely express themselves in a foreign language yet? How long does it take? Everybody has totally heard a story where, okay, somebody immigrated, moved to a whole different country. It took parents to, like, I don't know, a year of language courses and, I don't know, 6 months of battling with anxiety to open their mouth and start talking. Kids, kids just went into that school. Week into that school, they started speaking. Thanks for all those likes, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, doesn't take them way too long. It takes grown-ups way longer than children. They do not have a lot of the inhibitions the grown-up brains have. They do not have a lot of the mental health issues that we might be experiencing. But yeah, well, my bottom line here is that, okay, we advocate for bilingual education these days. And we absolutely happy to see that there are so many perks of bilingual brains. If you come across any of these, if you think like, okay, because I guess most people here are bilingual, right? You're either simultaneous ones or sequential ones, right? Because when you learn one language, that is your first, that is your native, and then you learn another one, that turns you into a sequential bilingual, right? Most of the population of planet Earth are bilinguals. And well, if that is surprising, I guess, well, think dialects because, well, as soon as you think dialects, that might not seem as surprising because some dialects are a far cry from the original language. That's how different they are, which makes the people who speak their little local town speak and the official version of their mother tongue makes them bilingual, basically. All right. So, There we go. Wide range of studies in today's education, learning, and formal education systems in, well, the Western world. I'm more speaking the Western world because that's where I work. The labs I've been working are like mostly in the Western world. And the education I've been doing is all over the place, not only the Western countries, but I didn't see much of like non-traditional approach like anywhere in the east, I would say, or anywhere outside of this, like what would you even call it, Mm, sort of the traditional like European system approach to education, right? Or like we can touch up upon US a little later. That's a whole different story. All right, so um yeah, we draw uh into the education various findings about well, experimental behavior therapies, or about how brains learn in general. What's the forgetting curve, for example, when you're learning your words and things like this? And I can ramble on, but shall we actually get down to business and well, get to the beneficial points of that brain that is multi or bilingual? What do you guys think? Is it good to have a brain that's, speaks in this language and thinks in that one and dreams in a whole different one? Or no, or you think that's not something you would want to have because that's confusing and your life might be a little more confusing because of it? Like, what do you think? Well, thanks for the waves and the likes. Thanks to all like newly joined participants. I need some ideas here. A little bit. Every million of likes is not enough. Oh, thanks so much, of course. And I think that, well, in case you guys have to say something, bilingualism at any time, you're welcome to pop a question about anything, neuroscience, anything bilingualism, multilingualism, or experience of a parent raising a third culture child who is multilingual, right? Okay, so you have that proverbial bilingual brain. It's faster, isn't it? And it has some kind of a switch there. What is that switch, right? Where is it? Well, the scientists have just found it. That's kind of amazing. That's kind of a bit of a breakthrough. No, it's not one place. It's not like one zone on the left hemisphere. It is a whole a lot of areas that light up, and where the electricity and blood flow increases in the prefrontal cortex, the top of the brain, something that forms throughout, like since you're born and on and on and on, all the way until you're 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty case by case basis here. That is the area that is responsible for problem solving. That is the area that is responsible for focus and a lot of the things that the kids don't possess actually because they're so young and their brain is under construction. But well, in kids, one very important thing and language study and neuroscience of the early years, like one very, very big focus, like what it looks at is what actually happens as you grow. It's very, very important to see the progress, to see the person since they're super little, since age 0, and all the way into their formal education journey to draw any conclusions. Well, what happens is that there's so much more attention in those kiddos. Kids are notoriously not attentive. They're notoriously not focused at all, right? There's like they see something over there and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go do that, and I'm just gonna run off to there and just forget about what happened before, right? And that's really hard to keep them sitting down and doing one specific activity, while bilingual kids are just a little tiny bit easier in this connection. Mm, One main thing is when you need to speak your other language is you need to inhibit your first one. You need to shush it, right? And that requires attention. That requires a lot of focus, what kids normally don't have, right? It requires a lot of focus to say bye or goodbye to your mama when you're leaving the house, and to say guten tag or ni hao or whatever to your teacher at the preschool. And that's a lot. I think that no one has the bilingual brain, even the Superman. Oh, we do, we do. Most population of Earth actually does. Well, but thanks for keeping the chats up, right? Um, well, yeah, imagine how hard it is for a little one to like suppress their willingness to open their mouth and blurt out whatever they're thinking, to see the social cues around them, and to see what environment they're in, and to actually like catch on those cues and simultaneously say guten tag to that teacher, right? My kiddo is an English Chinese bilingual, so he has like sort of simultaneous acquisition. Chinese came first, I would say, and English became stronger a little later, like gradually. And he can speak Russian, which he learns as a foreign language, that he learns as a foreign language too. But as we have family in both countries, it's much, much easier because those people are loving on him. And they are speaking their language to him. And last time he was in a capoeira class, the coach started speaking Portuguese to him, and he was, not baffled. He was like, yeah, let's talk. Una, dos, tres, and so on. Like, whatever you guys say, I'm just going to repeat, I'm going to imitate, I'm just going to go with it. Right. So, inhibiting the first language and paying attention, this is really hard. And later, again, I promised to talk studies here. So, yeah, there was a study on those immigrant kids in like in an inclusive community in a classroom with the natives, with the native speakers of English, right? We're speaking US here. What do you think? Those kids, on their language ability tests, they performed not much worse, even though their vocabulary was so much weaker than the natives kids, right? Who grew up hearing that language since age 0. And that's just wonderful for one specific reason. Well, the reason being that we get meta linguistic like cognition, right? We understand how syntax works, and those kids do. They understand broader connections, like what's the main part of the sentence and what does it have to do with like other ideas. Can we maybe skip the sentence? It will not be crucial for like the whole big picture. Those are great metacognitive skills, metacognition, aka thinking about one's thinking. Well, not every young professional has that by the age of like 25. And well, those bilingual kids, let's give it to them, they perform and outperform monolinguals on many tests. I didn't want like to sound in any way discriminatory, because monolinguals are there and they are specific cultures, they come from specific cultures that just don't have much exposure to other languages, right? And to me, for example, like my friends are either third culture kids or expats, and like their kids speak up to 4 languages, and it's no big deal, right? And for me, it would be quite very interesting to interact with a monolingual child or just like a monolingual person to see what's in there. Um, well, depends on, yeah, where you're standing, basically. Did you watch the movie of a boy who participated in spelling bee competition and took the first place, has learned every single bilingual vocabulary books? Maybe he's the first boy. Well, those cases like childhood genius, it's a little bit of a different situation. Was it? It was about some like disadvantaged kids or something. I guess I do remember. Um, yeah, well, childhood geniuses, like, you don't have to be a genius to be biomultilingual. The best part is that they have no idea that they're speaking different languages. They don't know that they're switching. They just look at another person and then they switch the input, right? And then they switch the output and they start producing different sounds. So, speaking of different sounds, right? Where is the language in the brain? Kind of gravitates towards the left a little bit. So there are 2 very crucial areas, the Broca area and the Wernicke area. So the Broca area is there for coordinating your articulation, your face muscles. This is what happens you to actually produce speech. And the Wernicke area is there for what does it do? It decodes stuff. Like it decodes speech. Other people say something, and the Wernicke area helps to understand it. It's very easy to remember in case you want to take it somewhere like further in your life, put it into your long-term memory, right? It's a little there's a trick like there's a condition called aphasia when you're unable to produce speech or understand speech, and it comes in two types: Broca's aphasia and Wernicke's aphasia, right? So Broca's aphasia is when you understand speech, a very frustrating condition, but you cannot quite put out speech, right? Like you can't say things because you can't coordinate your face muscles and articulation muscles to work, like to collaborate. Which is why like part of my research dealt with pronunciation, and I also practiced as a pronunciation accent coach. So that's why I kind of like to talk about it too. Splendid hairstyle, thank you. Well, and if a person experiences Broca aphasia, they lose the ability to reply, which is frustrating, like I said. um, why others don't ask questions. I have no idea why people are not asking questions. Ask. Please, what happens inside the brain of a bilingual person? Perks, disadvantages, anything hard to do with that? Like anybody's welcome to uh yeah, anybody's welcome to put any input you would like. Speaking of Wernicke, aphasia, that's when you don't understand, you cannot decode. The input is there, and the motor cortex is there to coordinate your muscles, but you don't know what to say and how to say it. Well, it's a bit harder to deal with this one if we're speaking clinical settings, right? Oh, there's a bilingual aphasia. Have you ever felt this thing where you would be like, yeah, I know this word. It's just, I know it in Spanish and I don't remember it in English. So, what do you do here? I don't know. Just like, I don't know how to talk to you. You don't know Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, by the way. Just like very basic. Well, yeah. So everybody's pumped about raising bilingual kiddos. So tips to become bilingual, please. Well, again, if that is yeah, quite often people experience that. Well, this whole stream is sort of like tips and tricks on becoming bilingual. If that, you would say just tips on basically learning a second language if you're trying to become a sequential bilingual at a later age, right? Not in the childhood. Will put in all the work and make as much fake environment around yourself as you can. Whenever I need to flex my weaker languages, I do every day of conversational classes with community tutors on any of the platforms. And by the end of the week or 2 weeks, I'm conversational and it's all good. Don't be a grammarian, right? Unless you need to pass some certain specific test. And switch your phone settings, switch your, I don't know, all the subscriptions to English. Uh, Watch all the media in if it's English or in any other target language, right? With the kiddos, it's even easier. Make it fun for them, make it happy for them, make the German or Chinese or whatever you want to teach them a fun, happy experience. Hire an amazing, happy teacher and pretend they don't speak it. Some of my friends' kids have cats that apparently don't speak or understand any other language, but only Turkish. So the cat, or Swedish. So the cat is Swedish. Baby talks Swedish to the cat. And they force themselves to, and it happens. How can a teacher use the info on what happens in a bilingual kid's brain? Unless you're raising one. Or unless you are a person in a two-way immersion program or a bilingual school, well, hard to tell. Basically, because we're all language teachers here, right? Um, I'm here to advertise basically the fact that we should draw findings of the neuroscience and implement them into learning, right? One thing. Another thing is I'm here to say that yes, bilingual brains are really smarter and it's not a myth. Well, they're just a bit faster, I would say. Like very, very big approximation here. I don't want to be sounding like offensive or discriminatory in any way. And another person is asking me about advantages of bilingual children, please. So this whole previous um, talk that was happening before, it was mainly speaking about their attention. Next point is the working memory. Their working memory holds up to, well, 10 items, which, well, it used to be 7, and somehow the people believed that it's 7 up to just a few years ago, when finally some popular articles started seeping through and telling people that no, working memory holds up to 4. We start at 4. So the threshold is lower there. So 4 up to 10, and 10 is like very high functioning, high performing brains. Well, those kids normally outperform their peers in like heavy load memory tasks when the brain is basically just under pressure, and they do better in these environments. Okie doke. Well, as far as we're done with the questions, and let us look at if any other platforms have questions. No, not really. So we're moving on then. I talked attention span, I talked focus, I talked why we need language classes in general in schools, right? And well, one more thing is actually I have a whole nice cup of coffee here I've been looking at for a long time. Been eyeing it, not drinking it, just really into this talk today. Um, yeah, well, neuroplasticity, their social skills, they are likely to be engaged in learning for longer in life, right? And stay, um, their brains will stay plastic. I don't like to use this word. I like to use the word malleable more, like changeable, uh, sort of able to restructure themselves. And even if the kid undergoes certain stress or even brain injury, right, the chances are that that brain will be much more malleable. And we do all, like, we're not facing dementia at the end of our lives, of course. We are, well, slowly losing cognitive skills. It's a thing, it starts happening at around after 60 years old, right? And in case we are bilinguals or we're learning actively a language or we just have taken up the language, this deterioration is likely to start happening slower. And well, that's brilliant, right? There is studies on stroke patients, there's studies on well, multiple groups with brain damage, which we're not talking here today, but you know, it's mostly how we implement that into education, right? And the early stages. Let's like come back to that for a second. Uh, do you think that bilinguals or trilinguals, little ones, tend to have speech delays, like a developmental delay? Because a lot of speech therapists do. What do you guys think? Like, do they or do they not? If they have a little speech delay, do we need to blame the massive language input that they're facing? What do you think? 'Cause, like, my own kiddo was delayed. He's like a late bloomer. It mostly has to do with his personality, but we figured again, as a neuroscience parent, I kind of was like, okay, I don't think he can imitate. And we taught him the skill of imitation just through actions, through like behavioral therapy. And voila, speech emerged. As we were saying, they can wait for quite a long time because language acquisition starts with a silent phase, right? And the silent phase can be quite a long one. Unless, well, not like unless, yeah, I don't want to skip things here, like until they basically understand that it's okay and safe to talk about something with others and that they read the social cues correctly. That's when they're ready. And I like, well, I highly discourage you from thinking, or in case you're raising a bilingual child, that this is going to slow down any other like development that is happening in there. All right. Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we are speeding on, and Yeah, I covered this, I covered that, I covered basically anything. So there's not much to speed into at this point. Well, problem solving skills, but I touched upon that as well. I think, yeah. Um, so what happens is that, well, when a person masters another language, basically at the level of their native one, they are amazing at information managing, right? Their brains are just totally pros at managing info inside of it and knowing where to put it and how to put it. And none of the bilingualism slash multilingualism lies in the broken Wernicke's area. It lies along the, like, around the cortex, around the cortices, the plural for the word cortex. Um, it has to do with problem solving, with switching attention, with switching focus, and holding focus, and it has to do with working memory. So those are the systems that work to help us switch and to be a multilingual individual. Thanks so much, right? I don't know. Any more questions, you guys? Anything about my own journey? Anything about the research projects we've been doing? Anything about parenting per se, right? I don't think it applies much into a language classroom. Again, unless you're teaching in a pretty specific setting, that is a bilingual school, right? Then you're likely to just notice and see how those kiddos are just a little bit different. All right, we're gonna go 5, gonna go 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. In case there is nothing to ask me right now or nothing is popping into your mind, I'll be happy to basically answer it anytime later. You can just pop a message under the stream in the IGTV. I'm saving this one. Some people have been asking to. And well, the social media manager will reach me. So she has the ways of doing that. And I can share any insights I got there. Thanks so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. That's just, this topic is one of my favorite ones, and I will be back in December. I'm only doing one stream in December because of a whole big load of the New Year content and Christmas content that's like happening here. You guys are in for a treat, and yeah, I'm going to talk about memory tricks in language learning and memory in the brain, and a little bit of neuroscience as usual. Happy, entertaining, coupled with tips and tricks on how to remember things in your language learning journey. And yay, so far so good. Everybody have an amazing day, whichever time zone you're joining from. I'll go and have an amazing afternoon, right? And see ya. Bye bye. Bye, you guys. Bye. Bye, Instagram.